I should have known better. I did know better. We all knew better. But there we were, all of us, ignoring our own inner red lights, our guts tightening every time we saw him with our kids. We mothers would observe him, see him playing with our children. The kids seemed happy enough. They weren't afraid of the man we all called Zadie. Mothers sitting in the shade, glad that our boys were getting attention from a man, from a real fatherly type. We'd look at each other and smile and comment about what a gift he was to us and to our boys, keeping our boys entertained, busy, doing boy things. He'd fix their bikes, take them for rides, build machanas with them, take them swimming, on hikes, play ball with them, and he'd be at every simcha to dote on them like a real loving Zadie. One mother asked her friend, "Is he okay, this Zadie? Is it okay that he spends so much time with our boys?" The answer was, "You should just be grateful. Every boy needs a Zadie like this one." Then, one day, in a parking lot full of kids, I overheard my friend's child say, "He's not so normal, that man. He thinks he can bother children and no one will notice." I saw my own son nodding in agreement. That's when I felt ice cold and clarity trickled down my spine. I realized that I had to stay calm. I turned to my son and gently asked him, "What's going on?" His response was, "That Zadie, he's not so normal." "How so?" I asked. "He's not sneeze," my son blurted out, and then he turned away from me and he ran upstairs. I had to think of how to talk to him, but all I could think was, I must stay calm. Well, I didn't feel calm at all, so when I came in the door, I just made dinner instead. Then I came up with a way to get my son alone. "Your fingernails need cutting. Come with me." So while he relaxed, getting a manicure, I ever so casually asked him, "So, what did you mean that Zadie isn't sneeze?" My son cringed, and then he shook his head no, and he looked at me and said, "You wouldn't understand because you're snua." Son, there is nothing you can't tell me. I'm a grown-up, and I know about these things. My son explained that Zadie would pass around books open to pictures of people with no clothes on and other bad pictures. Then he showed us movies. Oh no, I thought, it gets worse. Zadie showed the kids videos on his video camera or iPad or some sort of electronic device that the kids didn't have a name for. What were the movies about? I asked. One was a Goyish chasana. A Goyish chasana? Okay. What happens at this Goyish chasana? I'll never forget my son's expression as he squeezed his eyes shut and turned his head to the side, as if he was trying not to see those images in his head. But I held his hands and reassured him that it was okay to look so that he could describe to me what he saw. He described seeing a group of people at a swimming pool party. He said that the people started kissing and then took off all their clothes and started doing things. And there, my son had no words to describe what he saw. The other video my son described was of two boys doing karate. In my son's words, they were doing karate, really cool stuff. But they weren't wearing any clothes, and then, at the end, they started touching each other's private parts. I thanked my son for telling me all this. Then I told him that from now on, no kids should ever go near Zadie, and that the grown-ups would take care of this. Somehow, I made it through the next few hours of the bedtime routine, feeling on one hand like I was on the verge of hysterics, but also feeling strangely calm. Perhaps this is what it means to be in a state of shock. Finally, my husband came home from shul that evening. Having to tell him what happened was very, very difficult. I think I just blurted it all out incoherently, but he figured out the gist of it, and he paced back and forth in the kitchen. And his response was, "I guess I'm not surprised. I've seen that man sitting with kids late into the night. It seemed weird to me, but it's not like I could do anything about it. But now that it's up front and personal, you better believe we're going to do something about this guy." But then he turned to face me and he said, "So what are we going to do?" Talk to the neighbors. We spoke to our neighbors, who then spoke with their children, and their stories were all very, very similar. One mother told me that Zadie was spending a lot of time with her child, and she felt like she was losing her son to him. We later learned that Zadie had been speaking badly against the boy's parents, saying that his parents didn't love him, and that only Zadie loved him. He also told the boy that he was able to have other boys pose for him without clothes on, and that those boys got big rewards for doing that, such as use of his cell phone, tiyulim, and money. "What do you think we should do about this?" I asked my friend. "I'm not sure. I was thinking about contacting that new organization, Magen. Did you see their ad?" I hadn't. So she explained to me that Magen was a new organization in Beit Shemesh created to deal specifically with abuse. At that point, I couldn't imagine why we needed a whole organization in our community to deal with the subject of abuse. "But I'm really too nervous to call them," she said. "Maybe you could call, though." And so I did. We made an appointment with Magen for the following Motzei Shabbos to meet with David Morris and his team of experts. Before that meeting, we had no idea that Ramat Beit Shemesh had experts on this subject. We thought we were all alone and that we had to figure all this out by ourselves. Thank God Magen was there for us. We desperately needed their support. At the meeting, we got the validation we needed that what our son described about Zadie was indeed problematic enough to warrant going to the police. Magen gave us the contact information for Merkaz Haganah, the office in the Jerusalem area where one goes to report child sexual abuse incidents. After our meeting with Magen, it was time to call our Rav. It did not go well. The Rav discouraged us from going to the police and said that we would be hurting our child. The Rav said that he knew about the situation, he had received previous complaints about Zadie, and the Rav already knew how to handle it. The Rav reminded us that this man does a lot of good things in our community. And also, the Rav couldn't be sure that the children were actually telling the truth. After our neighbors spoke to the Rav, they decided not to report the abuse. Meanwhile, I called Merkaz Haganah, and they set an appointment for us to come down and file a report. Over 2 weeks away. That was really kind of shocking. I don't know what I thought would happen, but having to wait wasn't part of it. Well, I would learn to have patience with the justice system. That's for sure. 2 weeks later, we went to Jerusalem to file our report. Our son was so nervous, but they were so good, encouraging, and supportive at Merkaz Haganah that when the report was all done, our son said about himself, "I'm a hero." Yes, you are a hero, son. You are a very, very brave boy. Based on our son's testimony, the Beit Shemesh police opened an investigation, and the police obtained a search warrant for Zadie's house. The police went to his house, confiscated his computers, and arrested him for indecent acts against children. He spent several days in jail and was then released to house arrest in a different city. Later, he was allowed back to Beit Shemesh, but he was supposed to be accompanied by a family member when out of the house, and he wasn't allowed to go near children. However, he was seen unsupervised several times. Although the police wanted testimony from more boys, apparently after discussions with the Rav, no one else would testify, even when they were approached directly by the police. So in the end, this case was based on the testimony of our son and whatever else they found as evidence in his home and on his computer. Our story finally ended 3 years later when the court case came to a close with Zadie pleading guilty to 2 charges of child endangerment. He was sentenced to a prison sentence which was suspended for 3 years. For us, this meant we won. We sincerely hoped that this would stop him for good. However, rumor has it that he has been telling people that he was let off and that actually he won the case.